Straight ahead on Law and Crime Daily. The Paul and Reuben Flores California murder trial, as testimony reveals more details about the days leading up to and following the 1996 disappearance of Kristen Smart. And,
to be honest, I definitely hit him first.
Where'd you hit him?
I slapped him in the
You slapped him first? And then just on his face?
Can you get to shut up?
reaction to Gabby Petito's family's plan to file a lawsuit against Utah police over the handling of a domestic violence call prior to her death. Plus, more legal trouble for DC Universe's Ezra Miller as the actor now faces a felony charge. But first, an FBI raid on the Florida estate of former President Donald Trump over presidential documents possibly containing classified information. Law and Crime Daily, covering court cases from coast to coast. Welcome, everybody, to Law and Crime Daily. I'm Jesse Weber, and thanks for joining us. The FBI conducts a late-night raid on the Florida estate of former President Donald Trump in relation to documents they say he took there after he departed the White House. Officials say the presidential documents may include classified material. The former president was not at the Mar-a-Lago estate when the search happened, but released a lengthy statement online saying agents had opened up a safe at his home. He described the search as an unannounced raid, saying, quote, "These are dark times for our nation, as my beautiful home, Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida, is currently under siege, raided and occupied by a large group of FBI agents. Nothing like this has ever happened to a president of the United States before." The Justice Department has not commented on the search, but they have been investigating the potential mishandling of classified information after the National Archives and Records Administration said earlier this year that it received 15 boxes of White House records from Mar-a-Lago, including documents with classified information. This all comes amid a separate investigation into any involvement the former president had in the January 6 U.S. Capitol attack. Joining me today to break it all down is law and crime legal analyst Julie Rendelman and law professor Kirk Burkhalter. It's great to have you here, Professor Burkhalter. I'll start with you. This is a very big deal. A judge had to sign off on this. So what is the legal justification the FBI had to conduct a raid like this? I mean, what does a raid like this say to the outside world about what is happening in this investigation?
So we can speculate here because we haven't, the warrant hasn't been released, but the FBI is investigating whether Donald Trump violated the Presidential Records Act and whether he has sensitive documents from his presidency that he has not turned over. What's interesting and what it says to the world is, under normal circumstances, this is information that would be subpoenaed. Even Richard Nixon, his information that the Justice Department wanted was subpoenaed. Here, this is a rather heavy-handed approach. So, some folks think it's somewhat political. While you can certainly get obtain a search warrant, sometimes you don't have to. You simply have to ask. So the big question here is whether or not these were negotiations that failed, right, or whether the FBI just bothered never to ask.
Well, Julie, Trump wasn't there. He was in New York. So is that intentional on the part of the FBI, and why?
So I don't know that it was intentional. I mean, one would assume that the FBI would know exactly where he was and that he wasn't going to be in the house when it happened. It's certainly better if he's not in the house. And the reason it's better is you don't want to have potentially any fear that someone could get harmed, any arguments occur. So it's much easier and cleaner for it to happen. Was it intentional? I'm not sure, but certainly I think it inured to their benefit to be able to go in on their own. By the way, they were going in no matter what.
That is certainly true, although if he was there, I'm not sure how that would have unfolded a little bit differently. It's a major development nonetheless. And also, sticking with political news, the January 6th committee is given the cell phone contents of InfoWars host Alex Jones following a mishap by the attorney who represented him in the first Sandy Hook civil trial out in Texas. The lawsuit was the first of 3 against Jones over comments that he made about the 2012 Sandy Hook elementary school shooting out in Connecticut. Jones had said on his internet show that the shooting was a hoax in order to push gun control at the government level. Several families filed lawsuits seeking damages for emotional distress over the conspiracy theories. Ultimately, a jury ruled Jones should pay the 2 parents more than $49 million. During the first trial in the series of lawsuits, Jones's attorney mistakenly emailed the plaintiff's attorney 2 years' worth of text messages, photos, and other records from Jones's phone. The committee subpoenaed Jones last November, requesting documents and records related to his involvement in the January 6 march to the Capitol. The committee has yet to schedule its next hearing while the House is in recess for the month of August. And switching now to Minnesota, as several people are now in custody following a shooting last week at Mall of America. 3 people are charged with allegedly helping the suspects who fired the shots flee authorities. Last Thursday, the mall was placed on lockdown when shots were fired after police say there was an altercation inside a Nike store between 2 groups of people. Now, no one was injured when 21-year-old Shamar Lark allegedly fired 3 shots into the store. Police are still looking for Lark, as well as his alleged accomplice, 23-year-old Rashad May, who's accused of helping Lark get away. Authorities say the 2 contacted a friend to help escape the mall, and that friend allegedly reached out to his girlfriend, who worked at an area hotel. She then allegedly sent her cousin, who also works there, in the hotel shuttle to pick up Lark and May. The 2 men have nationwide warrants, I should say, for their arrest. Police said at a press conference that anyone else who offers them aid will be arrested. And still ahead on Law and Crime Daily, a domestic violence incident between Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie coming back into the spotlight as the Petito-Schmidt family announces plans to sue for damages. But first, the Flash actor Ezra Miller's latest legal issues as the celebrity now faces felony charges. Welcome back, everybody. Ezra Miller facing more legal problems after police say the actor allegedly stole from a Vermont man's home. Miller is now charged with felony burglary after allegedly stealing alcohol in May. Vermont State Police say they were alerted of a burglary at a home the evening of May 1st. They say that several bottles of alcohol were taken from the residence while the homeowners weren't there. Investigators say that surveillance footage and interviews gave them cause to arrest Miller. Miller was arrested on Sunday and is now set to appear in court at the end of September. This is the latest charge in a string of run-ins with the law. Miller pleaded no contest after 2 alleged incidents in March, one of which the actor got agitated by people singing karaoke at a bar and then used derogatory language. The Flash star has also been accused of behaving inappropriately with children in 2 states, most notably a mother and Miller's neighbor who filed an order of protection against Miller after the 2 had an argument during which Miller had a gun and was wearing a bulletproof vest. Professor, this is just another line of what we're seeing here. I want to stick with this charge. How serious is felony burglary? I mean, what are they facing here?
Well, it certainly can be serious because, first and foremost, it's a felony. So it's going to carry a penalty at the very least of a year, a maximum penalty. I think the aggravating factors are what would be important here. So if he in any way threatened the person that was home, if he had a weapon, if he damaged any property, that's what would make the difference. So we have to see what comes out as far as facts are concerned. I would suspect that he will attempt to plead this out or seek some type of counseling or other type of help, given all the bizarre behavior we've seen from him.
Julie, you know what I'm going to ask you. What is Warner Brothers supposed to do? They have this upcoming Flash movie. They're saying it's going to be great. They just get arrested. What's their response? What are they going to do?
So it can be a problem. Keep in mind, it's not starting. I think it's supposed to come out next summer. And so they can do a couple of things. The first thing they can do is not promote it as much. They can pick other films that they think will do better and kind of put this on the back burner. They can put it directly to streaming. I know they're not really for doing that, but that might be another way to avoid any issues with regards to Ezra Miller. And the other thing they could do, which I don't think they're going to do, is push even harder, promote the movie more, and put Ezra Miller more as the back in the background and focus more on the movie. At the end of the day, I don't think we're going to see Ezra Miller in any more of these movies.
That I can agree with you. I'm not sure when they are the star of The Flash. The Flash, it's a very difficult position for Warner Brothers, but also a very disturbing issue to say, none the least. Also, out in California, we want to talk about something else, and that's that a Los Angeles judge makes his final rulings ahead of the civil trial brought about by Vanessa Bryant, the wife of late basketball great Kobe Bryant. Bryant filed the lawsuit against Los Angeles County over accusations that law enforcement took and shared photos of the helicopter crash in which her husband, daughter, and several others were killed. In January 2020, the NBA legend, his 13-year-old daughter Gianna, and 7 others died when their helicopter plunged into a hillside in Southern California. At least 8 LA County deputies were accused of taking or sharing graphic photos of the scene. Bryant filed a lawsuit claiming their family suffered emotional distress. Bryant's attorneys say photos of Gianna and Kobe's remains were passed around on at least 28 devices and by at least a dozen firefighters. A judge has decided Bryant's attorneys won't be allowed to share disciplinary letters that employees were given, but that she can show jurors some messages she received, including ones threatening to leak Kobe's body after his death. Opening statements in the closed trial are set to begin on Wednesday. And also in celebrity news, rapper Fetty Wap is arrested in New Jersey for allegedly threatening to kill someone and flashing a gun over a FaceTime call. Authorities say the hip-hop star, whose real name is William Maxwell, was out on bail on drug charges when the incident happened. That stems from allegations of drug trafficking. Prosecutors say Maxwell violated the conditions of his release with the threatening video call in December. The rapper called a man on FaceTime only identified as John Doe and called him a rat and repeatedly threatened his life, this according to authorities. His attorney claims the man he called had posted a photo of his dead 4-year-old daughter days earlier, saying the man was trying to get a rise out of Maxwell. Maxwell's daughter, with singer Lisa Pembroke, known as Turquoise Miami, died last year of complications from a medical condition. At a hearing, a magistrate judge revoked Maxwell's bond pending trial in the drug trafficking case. And coming up on Law&Crime Daily, the attorney for Brian Laundrie's family responds to Gabby Petito's family's plans of filing a lawsuit against Utah police. Plus, jurors hear from one of the last people to see Kristen Smart alive 26 years ago in the California murder trial of Paul and Reuben Flores. Welcome back to Law&Crime Daily, everybody. The attorney representing Brian Laundrie's family is responding to the announcement that Gabby Petito's family plans to file a multi-million-dollar wrongful death lawsuit against Utah police. Joseph and Tara Petito and Nicole and Jim Schmidt are seeking $50 million in damages against the Moab Police Department, 3 of its officers, and 10 other unnamed defendants. The family claim negligent failure in the investigation into the alleged assault between Petito and her fiancé Brian Laundrie while the two were on a cross-country road trip prior to her murder. In August last year, Petito and Laundrie were recorded on police body cameras speaking to Moab officers after they responded to a domestic violence call alleging Laundrie had hit Petito outside of a grocery store. Petito was then killed in September. Her body was found a week after she was reported missing near a remote campground in Grand Teton National Forest. Laundrie was also found dead weeks later after he returned home to Florida without her. The Laundrie's attorney, Stephen Bertolino, says that he wishes the Petito-Schmidt family best of luck, but argues he doesn't believe the officers' actions contributed to Petito's death. And an outside investigation into the domestic violence incident found unintentional mistakes made by the officers since they didn't follow Utah statute requiring an arrest be issued in response to domestic violence incidents. The interaction between Petito, Laundrie, and the police was caught on camera. Let's take a look.
To be honest, I definitely hit him first.
Where'd you hit him?
I slapped him in the creek.
You slapped him first? And then just on his face?
You guys can just shut up.
How many times did you slap
Bravo,
him?
Romeo, India, Alpha.
Just a couple.
And then what? And his reaction was to do what?
Okay,
Maybe out of
hold
Florida.
on, so I wouldn't slap him.
He just grabbed you?
Yeah.
Did he hit you though?
He didn't hit me in the face. Like, he didn't punch me in the face or anything.
Did he slap your face or what?
Well, he grabbed me with his nail.
It wasn't like a push and she jumped on me. She was already, I don't want to, she was already swinging and I was a lot of angles, a lot of nails, a lot of rings.
Yeah, you got 3 scratches in your neck. You got 1 on your left side of your nose. You got 1 in your face here, and you got 4 that are bleeding over it. So it looks like 2 hands.
I suppose fingernails, but I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining about
Is it
fingernails.
bruised or tender or anything like
No,
that?
no, no. Okay. I'm fine. I love Gabby. I hope she doesn't have too many complaints about me.
Professor, I have to talk about Bertolino's comment. Why did he say that? Why is he saying anything? He nor the Laundries are directly a part of this lawsuit.
You know, Jesse, it's a great question. Your client's son was more than likely involved in the killing of this young woman. Don't poke the bear. And that's my advice here. What is there to gain? I can only think that perhaps if the police department is found liable, that in some way adds to the liability of his clients. I don't see how, but I just don't understand why he would comment or get involved in this tragedy.
Especially since he's such a central role in the other lawsuit. Julie, as I mentioned, there's this independent investigation that was conducted into this matter. How did those findings affect the Petito's family's case here?
So the simple answer, I think, is it doesn't have an impact. And I say that because they found there were mistakes. They found that it wasn't intentional. And they also said that it wasn't clear whether or not that had an impact on Gabby Petito being killed. At the end of the day, if there's no settlement, a jury's going to decide what witnesses are truthful, what witnesses aren't. A jury's going to decide whether a mistake was made and whether those mistakes were negligent and whether they led to her death. And so an independent investigation in and of itself, I don't believe is going to have any impact whatsoever. Assuming, keep in mind that we're going to a jury, assuming that there is no settlement. We really don't know at this point what's going to happen.
All right, so we got these two lawsuits, or one lawsuit and one potential one up in the air, and we'll continue to follow it. When we come back, testimony continues in the California trial of Paul and Reuben Flores. Can a jury determine guilt or innocence 26 years after the disappearance and death of Kristen Smart? In California, the trial for Paul and Reuben Flores moves into its fourth week with testimony from officials who investigated Kristen Smart's disappearance 26 years ago. The father and son are charged in connection with the disappearance and death of the Cal Poly college student after a party around Memorial Day in 1996. The son, Paul, is charged with her murder, while his father, Reuben, is charged with accessory after the fact for allegedly helping to cover up Smart's death by burying her body in his backyard. Prosecutors believe Paul raped and killed Smart after allegedly volunteering to walk her back to her dorm after a party, after which she was never seen again. Now, prosecutors called several witnesses this week so far, including a student who had helped to organize the party that Smart and Flores attended, who says they were never even invited. Another former student testified to seeing Paul with a bruise on his face a day after Smart went missing. Defense attorneys argued that his story had changed since his interviews with police, but a now retired investigator who interviewed Flores twice in the days following the holiday weekend corroborated his story. He also testified that Flores denied even knowing Smart in both interviews. Professor, it has been 26 years. When we hear this witness testimony, how reliable are these accounts?
Well, you have to take that into account, the time. Whenever you have a case like this where the time, the victim's demise is so attenuated from the actual trial, number one, comes to the fact, should jurors believe this information, the veracity of the information? Most of us can't remember in that level of detail what occurred 2 weeks ago, unless it was some type of traumatic earth-shattering event. So I'm sure the defense, and that usually favors the defense, right, because the prosecution has to prove their case. I'm sure the defense will make that point during their closing statements.
Absolutely, and we've heard that argument made in these kinds of cold cases. Now, Julie, let's talk about Reuben Flores for a minute. How strong of a case is it against him? And we can't forget that he's being tried at the same time with a separate jury, which is kind of unique, and already 2 jurors have been replaced with alternates. So how strong is the case against Reuben?
I have no choice but to go back to what Kirk said, which is this is a 26-year-old case coupled with the fact that the body was never recovered. It's hard enough to deal with the case, just like Kirk said, where witnesses don't necessarily have the recollection that they had before. Some witnesses have already been confronted with their inability to remember. However, they do have pieces of evidence. They have statements from the defendant that were inconsistent. They have witnesses that put them together. They have some type of, not DNA, but some blood work and cadaver dogs that seem to point to Mr. Flores and his father. Those things will help them. In terms of the fact it's a double jury, I've done them before. The prosecutor just has to keep their head on straight so they can organize it for the jury so they understand which goes with which case.
And sometimes the jury has to be excused, so there's certain evidence they can hear and certain evidence they can't hear. It's just a unique situation, and I wish it was televised because we would love to see it. Julie, Professor, thank you so much for coming on, and everyone out there, thanks for joining us here on Law and Crime Daily. We'll see you next time as we discuss justice in America.